Well, hello and good morning. It's Phil Thatch, and I am out and about today shooting with the 800 f11 on the Canon R7. Not finding much to photograph. I started out over at Harrison Bay State Park and drove around for quite some time. Didn't see basically anything. Well, I did see something. I saw a juvenile bald eagle for just a second, maybe a second and a half. It was flying across way away, and I was able to get a shot or two off before it disappeared. But they are so blurry and so out of focus. I was set up for small birds not moving, so I think I was at 1/200th. But anyway, so I got that terrible shot, and then I came over here to the Summit Knobs Equestrian Trail, and I've been looking around over here, and I did see a Phoebe or two. I forgot all about this double-crested cormorant shot that I made there at Harrison Bay State Park with the RF 800 lens at 1/320th with some blue light reflecting off of the water. And here is an eastern phoebe. This was at the Summit Knobs Equestrian Trail. Beautiful bird with lots of golden hour light on it. This was very far away, heavily cropped, but the combination of the R7 and the 800mm f11 made it where I could bring this bird to you even though it was a long way away. But now I think I'm going to shift gears. Canon has just put their RF 100mm on sale for $400 off, and I haven't used my macro lens in a little while. Today is, I think, October the 6th, so macro season in the northern hemisphere is kind of coming to an end, and I think I may put my macro lens on and wander around and see what I can find. I had my flash with me and my diffuser that I normally use for macro shots, but I like the way this shot was with no flash and no diffuser at f2.8, so the background was nice and completely bokeh-fied. And here is another shot kind of along that same line, but this one I did use my flash and my diffuser, and the background is still fairly bokeh-fied. I am having trouble finding things to photograph with my macro lens, and it's funny, as soon as I put my macro lens on I start seeing birds, but I've decided to shift gears, and shift gears I will. I made a number of photos, none that I thought were any good, back at the equestrian trail, and now I have come over to this little hiking trail, very short trail at Harrison Bay State Park, and this is the place where I came the first time I went out looking for stuff to photograph with this macro lens when I bought it earlier this year, and really didn't see much. And then I came across this vine, this sticker vine, which has big barbs on it that are probably a little bit more than a ½ inch long, and they're green and have all sorts of little interesting white spots on them, and the very point of them almost looks like the point of a pencil. And I made a few photographs of them using the RF 100 macro and the Crafty Bells diffuser and the Mikey MK320 on my R7. I thought these sticker vines were interesting to look at a very up close sort of a range, and you can see the points on them, how they turn color almost all the way to black, look like the points on a freshly sharpened pencil. I had basically decided to give up. I was just having trouble finding things to photograph, be them birds or be them macro subjects. And I came down to this gazebo here. Holy crap, look at all those deer. I don't know if you can see them, but there's 1 deer, 2 deer, 3 deer, 4 deer, 5 deer, 6 deer, just wandering around right here at the trailhead that I was just walking. But anyway, let me get back to what I was saying. I had basically given up. I was throwing up the white flag. I was going to go home and say, well, I didn't make a video today. And then I came down to this gazebo, and I walked around and I looked at the picnic tables in the gazebo, and I looked on the posts, and on the 1, 2, 3, 4, on the 5th post down, first I found a jumping spider, and then I found some other little creatures. Matter of fact, there's one right there, which you may or may not be able to see in this shot. And I spent, gosh, I don't know, 30 minutes trying to get shots of them, 15, I don't know. You lose track of time. I forgot all about this ant that I photographed on one of those posts. I don't think it was on the 5th post, which is where I found all of the really interesting bugs, but it was fun to photograph this ant. Now this creature, I don't know exactly what it is. I don't understand how that thing can see with its eyes hidden behind those feather-like antennae that it has. And then its front legs stick up like antennae, but they're front legs. So if you know what this creature is, I would really be interested in learning what it's called. And then here is the jumping spider that I photographed, and I actually got it on my hand and moved it over and photographed it on one of the picnic tables. And this was the only nearly decent photo I got of it. I was making that clip a minute ago, and you know, those deer were behind me, and so I just shifted the camera out of macro mode, still had the macro lens on, and the deer actually came closer to me, which makes me wonder if people are feeding them in this location. But anyway, the deer came closer to me, and I was able to get, with the 100mm lens, a pretty much frame-filling young buck shot. The 100mm macro lens is capable of much more than just macro photography, including this photograph of this beautiful young buck that was there really close to me for just a short period. Well, I have switched to a 3rd lens. I saw those deer and I decided, you know what, I'm going to put on my 100-500, which I also have in my bag today. And by the time I switched lenses, they had kind of moved on, but I did kind of go down somewhat near them and get a shot or two. And then I came down here, which is kind of a wooded area down the hill from that picnic area. And I've been doing some bird photography with limited success. I really love the way this female cardinal photograph turned out there in the woods down the hill from the gazebo. But I also saw lots of other birds, including a lifer for me, a Tennessee warbler, but I did not get a decent shot. It was way up in the trees, but I did get a tiny in the frame photograph and heavily cropped photograph of this yellow shafted northern flicker that was there in this tree. It's kind of a woodpecker type of bird without the word woodpecker in its name. All right. It has been a morning and an early afternoon, and used a lot of gear today. And sometimes some of my buddies poke fun at me just a little bit for carrying so much gear with me when I go out. But you know, if I hadn't have brought the macro lens, I would not have gotten those macro pictures. And at the time that I got those macro pictures, wildlife wasn't going too good, so I guess it was good to carry a little bit of extra gear. Maybe not good for my back, but good for photography. And I'm going to go home and start working on these pictures, so I guess I'm going to sign off. Thanks for joining me for today's macro and wildlife adventure. If you liked it, give me a thumbs up. If you want to see some more stuff like this, subscribe, hit the bell, and as always, I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye-bye from various wildlife locations in Hamilton County, Tennessee.